All right, so episode 4, I think, is the most fan-filled episode to date. Like a ton of Easter eggs for people who have read the books. And I think if you are a fan of Lord of the Rings at all, you're going to find lots of little things in this episode to like. Even though, again, they are still playing sort of fast and loose with the lore a little bit here and there. Overall, another solid episode. I feel this one was sort of bringing us back out of the mud and mire that was episode 3, although there still is some darkness here. Full spoiler alert ahead. I don't do spoiler free, so if you have not seen the episode yet, go ahead and make sure to hit pause, go watch it, come back. We will continue the discussion. But that is the only warning you get because it's all spoilers from here on out. So without further ado, episode 4, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Bombadil is probably the highlight of this episode for me. Like, we knew he was coming, we knew it was going to be in this season. And this is like, I think, one of the strongest. It's not the only, but it's one of the strongest callbacks to the books we get, especially with the tree and the way he talks to the tree to wake the tree up. Of course, our stranger Gandalf getting swallowed by the tree, and this one's called Old Man Ironwood or something like that. So this is a blatant throwback to the Old Man Willow scene in the books, which we did not get in the theatrical releases of Peter Jackson's films, but we did get in the extended editions of Peter Jackson's films, although not in um, the forests outside of the Shire, um, or on the edges of the Shire, I should say. We get that in Fanghorn Forest, if I'm not mistaken, in the extended editions. Anyway, we have that scene here. It's a throwback and an homage to the books. I'm all for it. It was cool. It was fun. Of course, Tom, you know, reveling in the fact that he's old. I was here when the dark was dark, before there were lights in the sky and, a lot of stuff which we kind of, I don't feel like they're going too off the book from what was written about Tom Bombadil. They're kind of just expanding upon what was already written in slight ways, but they're not really, I don't feel like they're doing anything that is too far different from what we saw in the book version. Obviously, this is before. What's interesting is when our stranger slash Gandalf is taking a bath and he thinks he hears a woman's voice singing alongside Tom's voice from the kitchen, and Tom's like, "There's nobody here but us," and so it's like a little bit of a foretelling, a foreshadowing of what's to come for Tom down the road. We also get a little bit more information about the Dark Wizard who lives here, and now he's someone who um, has amassed power and is potentially looking to join with Sauron, and these two forces aligned would be very bad. And got to face that fire, otherwise it's going to consume Middle Earth. And when the stranger asks Tom Bubble, "What should I do? Which should I fight? What should I face?" and he tells him, Bombadil tells him, "You need to face both of them," meaning he has to face the flame and he has to face Sauron. And that, I feel like, is so on the nose. At this point, if it's not Gandalf, I'm going to be extremely like, well, what was the point of all the allegory then? Like, just to keep us guessing, that's kind of lame. Um, but I think that if this is Gandalf, this is a really cool, a foreshadowing of what's to come, because he does have to face Shadow and Flame. He has to face the Flame of the Balrog, and then he has to face Sauron before his tasks are done. So I feel like this is probably Sauron in a very early, or excuse me, Gandalf, not Sauron. Sorry guys. I feel like this is Gandalf in his very early form. It's got to be at this point. It's got to be. Anyway, the second throwback is um, the elves. So Elrond and Galadriel with the elves are off in the forest. And during the forest, they're tracking stuff and they come across the remnants of the envoys who were sent to Celebrimbor before and who'd never made it. And in the midst of all of this, they're in the middle of this place with it's called the Borrow Downs, right? And so, or a type of Borrow Downs, and they face off some get some Borrow Whites. Again, super cool Easter egg for fans of the books because we didn't really get that in the films, and I know that was an area that people wanted to see. Now, this is out of context. Fine, that's fine. It's totally fine. Peter Jackson did so much out of context where he pulled lines from the second or third books and put them in the first books and so on and so forth. So people who are like, but that's not the way it happened, get over it. If you loved Peter Jackson's films, they're doing the same thing here. So that was cool. Again, homage to the fans, seeing that play out. Um, we also meet the Stoors for the first time, and I think that this was really cool to see a different type of hobbit, and the way they live in holes, and then this backstory of once long ago there was a hobbit who shared the last name um, of Sadok, who was the leader of the Harfoots. Um, once long ago, there was a steward who shared his last name who went off wandering, looking for this vision he had of a hilly countryside with lakes, with rivers and things where the hobbits would be able to live this fantasy. Uh, and she uses a word which is not the Shire, it's something else, Sazak or something. But obviously, it's referring to the eventual home of the Shire and how there was this ancestral steward who had the vision in his head. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find this place and I'm going to come back and bring you all to the promised land. And the leader of the stewards is questioning if Nori and Poppy are those people, and no, because Poppy doesn't have a home and she cries and she remembers the wandering lifestyle and everything. So touching. Um, the big thing here with the elves is that they eventually see um, orcs under Adar marching to a Region, and they realize they need to get word back to Lindon and let them know. And they don't know why the orcs are here, but they do know that Sauron is in Eregion at this point. Otherwise, why would the emissaries be dead? Um, and they decide to split up because word is taken out. Galadriel gives the ring to Elrond and then goes and basically faces off against the elves or the orcs to give her friends time to escape, and faces and gets captured by Adar. So we know that she's been captured by Adar here. Um, and Elrond and everybody else is on their way to get the king and the armies. I'm assuming of Gil-galad and Lindon. Um, so that's that. Then on the other side, we've got Elf Cop and everybody going off looking for Theo. In the process, discovering that people have been taken, not knowing what it is that took them. This leads to basically a search, the revelation that this girl who covered up her brand is actually one of the people of the hills. Um, Isildur decides to trust her anyway. They go searching, and in the process of all of this, they meet up with Ents. So we get some Ents here in this episode, and an Ent wife, which is the third big throwback to the books. We're actually getting to see an Ent with his Ent wife, and they have been looking over this part of the forest for years. And the orcs came through and burned everything, and so they've been catching anything left and putting it in these like jail cells, these like tower treetop jail cells. And Theo's in one of them, as is the promise, the betrothed of the girl that Isildur has been falling for. And of course, he's a little bitter about that, but hey, whatever. Um, but we do see Ents, and in an Ent I know I can't remember the actor's name off the face of my head, but they got a British actor I know to do the voiceover for the male Ent, and I don't know who the female Ent was. I'd have to go look that up. But it was cool to see an Ent and an Ent wife, and that kind of, in my opinion, with these three major Easter eggs for fans. I think, like I said, no matter who you are, no matter if you've read the books or if you've watched Peter Jackson's films, there are little things to enjoy this in this episode. Um, and I can't wait to see where we go for the rest of the season. Honestly, it's been far more enjoyable than season one, and I'm having quite a good time. Hopefully, you are as well. Love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below. Daily streams here and on Twitch. And of course, I watch a lot of other shows beyond the Rings of Power. I play a lot of games. We do a lot of things. So check out all the playlists, check out the socials, the Discord, etc. And I'll see everybody in the next one. Stay safe and happy viewing.